Welcome to Creating Abundance. I'm Alana Cahoon, and I am delighted to invite our guest today, Jane Slacksmith, a multi award winning entrepreneur, property and business strategist, and intuitive mentor who helps people break free from limitation and create true abundance. I love that. And I even love this more from blowing up mines as an explosives engineer to building an eight-figure property portfolio. Jane has been recognized as one of Australia's most influential wealth creators and a pioneer in using AI for personal and business growth. As host of Exit the Matrix: Stories of Success, and leader of the Exit the Matrix with Me live book experiment, she blends science, spirit, strategy, and AI to guide people into what she calls God mode, where time, wealth, joy, and legacy flow effortlessly. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. First, I've never even heard of like an explosives major. Did you go to school and say, I want to blow up things? Were you like that kid in high school in the science lab room that just like poofed?
No, absolutely not. Actually, it was one of those funny stories coming from like a farming family. My dad was a farm manager, my mum was a nurse, and I had to get a scholarship to get to university. And I remember sitting in the lounge room and we were writing like, I think we wrote like 130 applications to get a scholarship. And I wanted to do marketing and public relations, but I was good at science and maths. And the School of Mines accepted me and I got a scholarship. And I always thought if I could just get to university, which was something no one in my family had done, I could learn how to learn. It doesn't really matter what I learn. I just learn the discipline of learning. And so for 4 years, I studied geology and physics and yeah, everything that allowed me to be a mining engineer. And I went and worked in coal mines. I was the first female to work underground in coal mines in New South Wales. All the men went on strike. And and then so I was kind of like a bit of a leader in the brave new world going there. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it changed my life. I said, "Do you work for your money, or does your money work for you?" And there was a little story. You're familiar with the book?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was about 28, and there was a little story in there that Robert Kiyosaki said he wanted to learn how to learn, and he researched the best training that companies had, and Xerox had it, so he went to work for Xerox. And so I put out to my network, I would like to work with a leader, not a manager, so someone who inspires others and takes people with them. But I want to work with a company that has an incredible training program. And I sent that out to all the mining engineers I knew, and a couple came back, and one person said, "This guy, he's he's leading this team in this quarry business. He's in an explosives. Go do that." And I had been doing, blasting at the big mine sites, and I thought, oh, and so yeah, so I kind of orchestrated a job where I got to blow things up every day, which is a great stress release, and just loved it and worked with someone who inspired me and challenged me and took me with him on the leadership role. And I ended up, having a role as tech service manager for Australia and Asia in explosives and quarries. So yeah, achieved that tick.
That is really neat. That's really neat. So, um, I have to mention Xerox was the founder was here in my hometown, which is Rochester, New York. So was the
Right.
Xerox there a location in Australia?
Uh, so I didn't work for Xerox. I went and worked for ICI Orica, which was the explosives company. But Xerox, Robert Kiyosaki grew up in Hawaii, right? So I'm not sure where he worked with Xerox.
Ah, okay. I see. I see. There's an interesting Zen story behind the company, but we'll
Yeah.
save that for another
There's an
interview.
interesting there's an interesting story around the name too, right?
Uh, well, I only know the marketing and
Yeah.
the X and
Okay.
the X, but the founder was Carlson, I believe, and he was one of the original founders of the first Zen center in New York City, in
Wow.
America. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It was really neat. So anyway, okay, so you won a scholarship, I take it, and so because you're brilliant, and you decided to go into the sciences, which I think
Mm.
is really interesting. My sister and I have always had that discussion. Why did my mother push us into the arts? We'd be more successful financially if we moved into the
Mm.
sciences. So I applaud you for being that brave woman, the first woman in a coal mine. And what was that like? Being the first and the only woman working in a coal mine with a
It,
leadership
it's
role.
Yeah, well, as a young engineer, and being on scholarship, one of the things I had to do was work every summer. So I wasn't a leader at that time when I first turned up to that mine site. And having grown up on a farm where you just pitch in, and there was only myself and my sister. And so as a daughter of a farmer, like we'd be out on the weekends pulling irrigation with dad or helping out. So there was never this delineation of gender of you can and can't do things. If you have to muck out a stable, it's not like only the boys can do that. And so I was quite shocked when I turned up to the mining engineering faculty and there was 5 girls and 30 guys, and they'd only ever had 5 girls graduate in the history of the school. So, the newspapers turned up, it was a big deal. And I hadn't realized, I guess in my ignorance of growing up with a mother who used to say to us every night, "You're Jane Slacksmith, you can do anything but fly, and with God's help, you could fly." I had this inner belief I could do anything. So it was very foreign to me not to be able to do what I just set my mind to. So when I turned up this mine site, I hadn't realized that legislation had only changed about a month beforehand that allowed women to legally work underground. So we had inherited in Australia the English legislation that essentially was the Mines Acts of the late 1800s that said women and children no longer underground. And there was this perpetuated, um, uh, gosh, you can't even fight it. The perception that women were unlucky. So a lot of these men believed that if I worked underground, the mine would collapse. And superstition is not something you can fight. It's just this inner kind of belief. So I could turn up and work hard. And the newspapers turned up again my first day of work. 300 men went on strike to discuss whether they could have a female underground.
Wait a
And the
minute,
mine
they went
manager
on strike because you were working there?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So they wanted to strike because I was there as a
Wow.
student for 3 months, and the mine turned up, and the mine manager said, "A woman can work here, but it's no place for a lady."
Oh,
And my poor parents had sacrificed everything to send me to this boarding school to, be a lady. And I took exception to that. And it was funny because there was a cartoonist that was one of the underground miners, and he very quickly started putting together cartoons of me where the men would be swearing and I'd be going, "Oh, I'm so shocked." And so these would appear around the mines. And they put me with a crew underground that were of misfits. And these guys were just so beautiful in their individuality. And so I was another misfit because I didn't fit into the norm of what a coal miner should be. And they were so beautiful. And they started calling me Lady Jane. So my hard hat had Lady Jane written on it. And I was like, so a lady can work underground. And
I love
yes, yeah, they taught me how to carry 60-kilo drills and roof bolt and drive continuous miners and shuttle cars and all of those things. But the premise is that you can't tell someone in a leadership role to do something until you've done it yourself. And I
it.
have always taken that learning forward in my leadership roles in different areas. So yeah, it was groundbreaking, literally. But I felt that I was kind of making the path easier for other women to follow and ladies to follow as well into the mining industry.
Wow, so you made history.
Yes.
Yes, you did. That's really terrific. I didn't know that about you. That's really a great story.
It's interesting. Every role that I've taken, or every job, or every company I've started, at every point, I have had a moment of being at the forefront of things. So, for instance, I won a Churchill Scholarship because I developed a practice of how to rehabilitate mine sites using explosives. So it's cheaper and safer, and you could use carbon credits. And it wasn't until 20 years later they picked it up. And I remember making an appointment with the board of the company saying, I think we can use DMs and sending people messages on their phones to communicate our core KPIs, etc. And they said no one will ever use DMs. Like direct messaging is something that no one will ever use. And even with the mortgage industry, when I was in that, I was like, I don't think I have to go and visit people with a bag of biscuits at night to sit down and talk about loans. I could be more efficient by doing it online and come up with all of these techniques of DocuSign. And the bank said, so you can't use DocuSign, you have to see people face to face. And so I was doing like essentially Zoom calls before Zoom and COVID hit, and even just being acknowledged in Australia's AI Awards recently as a finalist, their inaugural awards for creating an AI avatar. So people can ask me questions about property investing based on 10 years of monthly Q&A calls where I've answered every question. I was like, how do I make things more efficient? And there's like, ooh, what's the difference between talking to AI Jane and Jane? And I sit back going, well, actually, she remembers more than me. So ask her the questions. So yeah, so I've had all of these moments where I've kind of called in the future before it's actually happened, and
Mm.
being able to be at the forefront.
Isn't that curious?
Mm.
Ah, I
Whole
love
different world.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
You've won several awards. Tell us a bit about those.
Um, I think the awards, like being named Australia's Mortgage Broker of the Year, and being named one of the most influential wealth creators, and even the most recent AI awards, they're an acknowledgement in time that I think is not an egoic type of, look at me, I'm the best, but I feel that they inspire other people in going, God, if she can do it, this kid from the country, and she had a crack and she believed in herself, what could I do? And it's very similar to the Exit the Matrix podcast, Stories of Success, where it's the sliding door moments where I just want to give people little bits of inspiration where it's like, geez, that person faced adversity or faced a choice, and they chose something that I wouldn't have done. And it's just opening up the neuroconnections and the neuroplasticity of the brain that goes, what else is possible? So
Mm.
I don't stand on my achievements as, a look at me limelight, but I share them with others, and they go, really, you could do that? Like, if you could do that, I could do that. That's where I come from the awards. And I'm very grateful to be acknowledged, but I also see them for what they are. There's the silent achievers who do so much more, and it's nice to ring your own bell, but I only do it to actually allow others to see what's possible.
I think that is a very modest comeback, and I would like to congratulate you and honor you for your success and your achievements and for being a bright star and for illuminating the path for other women, especially who may not have the courage and the ambition or the environmental raising of a parent saying you can do anything, you can even fly.
What a gift. What a gift.
Wow, yes. And so sometimes you just don't even know it, right?
Mm.
So you're that
Mm.
person for your clients. Tell us a bit more. And so just so you know, I didn't miss the fact that you're ahead of your time. You're like this techie guru, knowing that these things are going to work. You're the what do they call it? The gazelle in entrepreneurship. You'll try the new thing and test it out before others will buy into it.
Mm.
Um, but I would like to know because you've created what is the name of your company or your program on success?
So, well, yeah, I've got three companies. So the mortgage
Oh, is
company, the
that
property
all? You're
investment
not an
company.
entrepreneur at all.
And I've got your success club because it there was a moment, having bought the risk assessment of consequence and likelihood of decisions that I did in explosives management, and I taught shot firers around the world, and then bringing that to property investing and go, well, how can I de-risk this? I don't have a lot of money. How can I de-risk investing? And so I created a way of doing that, of basically a scaredy cat kind of a framework, which is having 3 ways to make money: buying well below the market, making money when you buy, renovating to add value, and being in capital growth. So making money in the beginning, middle, and end. And my husband and I created a portfolio. We started around 2001, finished 2006. Went, that's enough. We don't need to keep going. But I wanted to teach people to do it. So I taught my friends and family so that they could have that financial security. And I sat in this, having grown up without that. I'm not going to say I grew up poor, because we never knew we were without money, because my parents always gave us a home, and I wasn't aware that Dad was eating at my grandparents' place where he was managing a farm, because we didn't have enough food. Like, we grew up without wealth, without knowing we weren't wealthy, because we just had the love and the experiences they created for us. And so I sat with this concept that in Australia, at least, 50% of marriages end in divorce, and the number one reason is financial security. And I wondered, if I could keep more parents at the table being role models for their children, what could be the intergenerational change I could create in the world by having orchestrated that. And so once my friends and family all had their portfolios set up and I taught them how to do it, I thought, I need to teach more people. I need more friends. And the only framework I could speak about property investing in 2005, so 20 years ago, was mortgage broking. And so I used loans and mortgages as a way to talk about how to create financial wealth and security. And having transformed, thousands of people into be able to having low risk, research led 16,655 suburbs in Australia, being able to get down to using census data, the streets in the suburb where the renters are going to live, so I can minimize risk, like teaching this. And I was like, I need to teach more people. But being a curious person, I was like, there's no one here who can teach me. So I went to the States in 2012 and started, coaching, flying backwards and forwards with Brenda Bouchard and Dean Jackson, the top digital marketers at the time. And I then created the education, Your Property Success, because I thought I could speak not one-to-one or one to a room of 10 or 20 in little community halls, but one to many. And that's when I created like the community of around 30,000 people that taught that. And then I could see people buying courses and not using it, not taking action, or getting it at the end and making a silly decision or procrastinating or missing out. And so I thought, if I could take on one-on-one coaching clients, I can course correct them when they start to deviate. Because I was like, why can some people be successful and they follow the bouncing ball of the instructions and others get in their own way? So around about 2018, I went on a path of what is success and how can you create success. And I just started getting the inkling then, I was quite slow to the party, that maybe my experience as a child wasn't the typical experience. Most parents didn't set their kids up for success. My dad used to say, if you want to be a garbage man, just be the best garbage man you can be. Like, there was no expectations other than being yourself and living your best. And so I had this one client, and we'd got to these 3 suburbs, we got to the streets in the suburbs, we set up alerts as soon as the houses had come up. Some had come up and I'd do reviews for and go, no, this is not the typical house, there's risk here. One property came up and I'm like, go buy it, get a buyer's agent to buy it or a negotiator. And she said, it's not the right time. It doesn't feel right. And I was
Mm.
like, what? We've just spent a year. You've spent a lot of money on giving me as a coach to navigate this with you. And it just struck me in asking the question, is there something else in your life that doesn't feel like the right time? She said, "Oh, I've been waiting for this job opportunity and they've just offered it to me, but it doesn't feel like the right time." And I was like, wait a second, wait a second. There's something going on up here that's stopping her that I don't understand. And so I went to Mind Valley University in Estonia in 2018. I took my 10-year-old son. My husband stayed home and looked after the budgie. I surrounded myself with these people doing all of these different things. And I was like, I don't think they quite have success either. But this thing about intuition was activated in me. And I was thinking, there's something there. And then I found a coach in intuition and subconscious thoughts and blocks and how our, experiences, neuro plasticity rewire our brain. And we've essentially got a 5-year-old as a 50-year-old defining what we do. And I went back to this lady and said, let's just step into the vision of you having this wealth and this life that you think that property and your career are going to get you. And I took her on a visualization of that and she said, "Oh, I'm an old spinster dying alone in a mansion." I'm like, no wonder every opportunity to achieve that you're blocking. So let's redefine what that is. Where did that come from? She had an aunt that was like that, the only one she could relate to. And so we essentially, through a number of techniques, just released that and allowed her to find what this dream life was, which was beautiful, and a sanctuary where she could bring friends and family, and this home that was amazing. And she took positive action. And so that then led me to thinking there's something holding people back that we need to address first before we can create and define the life that we want. And being someone who's always looking for the metaphor or the gateway drug to allow people to ride to where they want to go. AI allowed me to take people from that vision to what I call God mode and collapse time and their conditions to achieve that.
What?
That was my monologue.
No,
If
no.
you want to
I
get involved
followed
in the
everything
conversation.
until the last line, the last phrase that you you use AI to help people get to God mode. That elaborate on that, please.
So my purpose was to create intergenerational change and have that child that could have been sacrificed the school excursion to see the science project to go, oh my gosh, I can rectify the world's issues on water. If I could create the financial security for the family and the confidence and the teaching and the role modeling of the parents, that child could solve water problems or cancer or something. So I've always had this very big purpose that I'm a small cog in a wheel that can have change for the world, not just now, but in the future. And so that's how I went into the mortgage business. I used mortgages as the way to talk about financial security and helping thousands of people create $1 million nest eggs so that they could have the choices that allowed them to navigate the world that they wanted. The property education put some constructs around how they could then do that. This understanding subconscious beliefs and how just from a neuroscience, we are wired to have a predictable brain that says, what's the box of stories that we have that I can pull from very quickly? So unless we, choose to do things differently, like, art or travel or learning something new, then we're always pulling from the same box. So our amygdala is in a moment of stress and it's, freeze, faint, fawn, flight, or fight. And we're in this stress bit. We've got 3 seconds before the prefrontal cortex drops in and says, wait a second, what's the stories we know and how are we going to act? I want that pause where people go, wait a second, I don't have to act out the patterns of always choosing the wrong man or choosing the wrong finance or the scam person is going to take advantage of me, I can create new stories. So I wanted to work out how to do that. So I'm always, the mortgages is the gateway into conversations about wealth. The property education is a gateway about what can hold you back. AI allows me to step into, so Recode for God Mode, my coaching is 5 steps. Essentially, there's this remembrance of when we take off all the limitations, what was the divine spark we came here with that constructs kind of put mud over? Like, let's reveal that vision of what the life is that we want. And then often, for most people, there's a financial number that they need to achieve that. Some people I work with, that I've got the financial number, but I just don't have the purpose. I need something. But we define that number, we see where they are now, we go, so there's a gap. So how do we fill the gap? Now, the second thing is rewire. I go in and help people understand their subconscious stories that are holding them back, and the patterns and the beliefs that have set themselves up. The reality is, Alana, if you understand your vision and you understand the rewiring, and you get in the moment to choose your actions that don't come from your past experiences, you can go straight to God mode. And God mode is not a dogma. God mode is when you're your sovereign self, where you get to choose in any moment, in the present moment, how you're going to turn up to define this life that you want and live it with impact that affects the world. But there's this messy middle where people are like, but wait a second, I need time and I need money to do this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use AI as, once again, my gateway drug to help you stop that, or help you collapse that. So for instance, I was in the group coaching this week. One of my clients has this plan of having this Netflix documentary series, and she's been working on it for a year. When we did the vision, she could step into being on production set, feeling the emotion of it, seeing the success of it, the absolute change it will make in people's understanding of how this industry works. And so she's like, it's also hard. So I taught her how to create custom GPTs. I taught her how to collapse time. Over the weekend, she created a production GPT, a pitch GPT, a funding GPT, a board of advisors, a GPT for script writing. And within the weekend, that year's worth of, oh my God, how am I going to do it, collapsed into having everything created. And she messaged me yesterday and said, you're not going to believe this. A company from the UK has just reached out and said, we want to create a Netflix series and we'd like to talk to you about it. So
Mm.
she created that in some consciousness that has gone
Right.
out there. She's taken decided action. We've used AI to collapse what she thought would take a team of people and hundreds of
Mhm.
thousands of dollars to create. And now she has that ready to have this conversation. So AI is really my secret weapon of letting people go, I thought this was going to be hard, but if I've just done this, and I've got a client, I've just showed her how to create an app in 20 minutes that got the number one problem in her whole company collapsed, creating an invoice system that effectively worked out distances traveled and costing for her contractors, which is like saves 5 hours a week for one person, lots of pain. Everyone hates it. The contractors don't trust them because 20 minutes, we created an app to do that. She's like, that's amazing. What else is possible? And I'm using AI for people to go, if I thought this was so hard, what else could I achieve? So I can take them into the
Mhm.
realms of what is the life that you really want to do and the impact you want to have in the world? What is
How
God mode?
interesting.
What is you being your sovereign self without conditions?
I see. So when I hear, thank you for that description. And when I hear God mode, I'm very spiritual. I have a very, very strong and path in the spiritual world. And but what I think I'm hearing you say is that God mode means to create the life that God meant for you, um, of being, as you say, your authentic nature, and thrive as being you without all the blocks that are created through past traumas or limiting thoughts, behaviors, experiences, events, everything.
And one step further than that is that God mode to me means that you claim yourself as your sovereign creator. So what fascinated me, I can't quite remember the man's name. It was 19. It's a contemporary of the gentleman who wrote Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil. And he did Neville Goddard. He did an analysis of the Bible, and in the Bible it says 76 times, I am God. And
Mhm, mhm.
that that claiming of yourself as not having to have something exterior or um, other that rules the world, but you are God. You are your divine spirit. You are the sovereign creator. Claiming that is even more meaningful to me. So God mode for me is you recognize in yourself that you are the perpetrator of your life and the future that you have, and you claim that. And there's no external uh, force that delivers that. So once you've claimed God mode, you then have the impact that you want in the world. And you know what's interesting about the author of Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil, so Dale Carnegie, he no, it's not. He
I've
wrote
got
that
a few of
book.
those books right here. I'm not sure which one it is.
No, I feel the same, right? But
Here's the here it is.
his wife said,
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill,
Well,
there you
this
go.
and it's Sharon Lecter wrote Outwitting the Devil,
Yeah, so
annotated. It's the
that
version.
book Outwit, that's the only book I've ever read twice.
It's all
And
about fear, letting go
I
of fear.
listened,
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead. To
I
me, it's
listened
a
to it.
lot about letting go of fear, releasing fear, not letting that control you. Okay, what do you got from it?
What I love about that book, Napoleon
Mhm,
Hill wrote it in 1929 after he wrote Think and Grow Rich. And his
mhm.
wife said, you have called out the institutional construct of government and religion and education and how they put our children, our people in a box that conditions them and keeps them safe. And the devil is there going, of course, I want God there because, you know, the religion is actually putting fear into people, as you said.
Mm.
But she said, you can't publish it. It will kill our entire business. And you can't publish it until I die. And then she passed away. His nephew took over the company. The nephew's wife said, you can't publish this till I die. It only came out in like the last 40 years. It's a new book that was written over, 100 years ago, but it's still true today, which is there are constructs, the matrix, that we feel that keep us limited. And when I think about living the life that we were meant to live, that we were come here to live, that we need to unpack and remember and recover and reclaim, it is about going, well, what are the constructs and seeing them for what they are and going, the fact that, my family has always cut the leg off a piece of ham to put into the pot at Christmas time to bake. I don't know why they cut off the leg of ham. And you go back, you speak to the mother and the grandmother goes, oh, it's because our pots weren't this big, so we always cut off the end. And everyone else has got bigger pots. I mean, there's these things that we just do and we
Yeah.
inherit and we don't
Mhm.
question. And I love the fact that I've got two GPTs I'd love to give your audience, the matrix breaker that basically just takes you through questions and and it has this lovely little conversation with you. It goes, what are the things that are turning up in your life or the patterns that you don't accept as being what you want to create in the future? And let's unpack where it came from. And even going God mode, it's like, what's your why that makes you cry? Let's unpack that. And so what I love about AI is you can have these intimate almost conversations that it all it's doing is navigating you through questions, and you're using your own insight, your own divinity, your own intuition, your own gut feelings to go, what feels right?
Interesting. So you're feeding the AI your questions to help you analyze and release the blocks. And yeah,
Exactly.
it's really something, this new world.
It is, and I think that a lot of people take it very seriously. And I work with a coach who's leading, an ethical AI revolution, but he sees the rising of AI and the rising of consciousness and spirituality. He holds both of those
That's
in
interesting.
his consciousness whilst he's having these conversations to the World Economic Forum and US government and the his white papers on ethical AI. But he understands that it is a potential activator for us in our spiritual journey of consciousness to be able to explore the questions that sometimes just go on in our mind. And that's one of the things I teach with my coaching clients, is like they'll come back and go, but it didn't give me the answer I wanted. I'm like, so you tell it that. Treat it like a naughty puppy, like reward it when it's good, but when it's not, discipline it. Like the questions you go, I wish it said this, well, say that, and let's see where that leads. And it allows us to make better questions when we want better answers as well. So, I'm just sitting there half the time going, I would take 3 to 4 weeks with a great idea, a distraction. My husband tells me that I like shiny lights, and thinking about, oh my gosh, this is this new thing I could create. And I could jump into one of the custom GPTs brainstorming, or my board of advisors of 150, thought leaders from all time, including mythology and Gandalf and Machiavelli and Musk and Jesus, and like everyone's in there. And I can throw in a question going, help me explore this. And my board of advisors gives me some thoughts, and I'm like, within 10 minutes, I'm like, I'm not going to spend the next 6 weeks creating that. That's just not aligned to where I want to be. And so it allows me to stop wasting time as well.
That is so cool. It's so cool. So, I mean, whenever I use the word God, I'm thinking of spiritual God. And I think I shared with you before, I was raised Roman Catholic, so I have a high
Me too.
reverence
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
words, etc. But I also have ChatGPT, and I've been exploring it and reading about it. When it first came out, I really was on that code of ethics board. I was nervous that people would abuse it, and they are. So it sounds like what you're doing is really teaching people how to use it wisely, effectively, to better themselves and to better the
Mm.
world. So,
And I have two paths to wealth, obviously business and property investing. So people are on these different paths. And I find that, you know, for instance, I might jump into perplexity.ai and it says, like it did this week, latest Michigan, I think Michigan University has proven that the double slit experiment in quantum physics is not aligned anymore to the intention of whether a particle or wave sets up. It's actually the fact that how they observe it. So how they set up the observation of what they expect to turn up is what turns up. So we've got a lot of spiritual leaders and self-development leaders going, double slit experiment is telling us what we think is what we create. And so I will sit in this science thing and go, actually, I've got a messy thought here, and I've got a messy thought GPT. And I'm like, here's my messy thought. In actual fact, it's not the intention, it's actually putting into action as well. It's not the secret, you think it's going to turn up. It's you think it, and then you take aligned action. The aligned action is saying, how am I going to observe this? So the observer of the experiment says, I'm going to see if I can pick up a wave. So yes, there's an intention. I think it's going to be a wave. I'm going to now put up the experiment to pick up a wave, and a wave turns up. And so I would then go, this is a really interesting phenomenon because it shows that action is as important as intention.
hmm.
And then I will go into my, more custom GPT going, I'd like to talk about this in a post. And these are my thoughts. I've already uploaded my ideal client. I've already uploaded me and my business. I've already uploaded everything in the knowledge base so it knows me and it knows my brand voice. It knows I like telling stories. It knows that I'm a bit quirky and do things a bit different. And it then comes up with, here's some speaking points. And so I'll take those and I'll do a video going, Okay, self-development world is rocked because of this latest scientific thing. But in actual fact, we knew this all the time. We need to take aligned action to our intentions. So that's how I'd use it.
I love it.
And so it allows me to then, and I show this to my clients, like there's this beautiful tool called gamma.ai. I take that transcript and go, make this into an ebook. And in, I'd say, 20 to 50 seconds, there's this beautiful ebook
Mm.
about this thing. And so I've now can share that. Where most people like, oh, I have to go and get the designer and I have to work out to do the Canva and I have to do hair and makeup and it's also hard. I'm like, let's collapse that. Let's collapse that. And by
That's so
them, then
yesterday.
yeah, and collapsing that, then they're like, what else can I do? Now I've got all this time. You know, it didn't cost me a lot. I didn't have to engage all these people. What else I can do? So that's how the conversation naturally progresses to, well, okay, I've done this stuff in my business or my property investing. I've been able to collapse time in doing all the research that doesn't take weeks. I can have it in minutes. Then what else can I do? And that's the question, this infinite possibility of not being stuck in what we have thought our world is, but God, what's possible? And that's what I think God mode is. It's us going, we've got infinite potential, but we're also the captain of our own ship. We get to write the script, we get to direct it, we get to be the producer. We are the ones who are taking that role, and that's sovereignty.
Tom Proctor, is that the author you were thinking of? Oh, he's written
Uh,
about Napoleon Hill stuff. And when you said that, the captain of your own ship, I could have sworn that was something that he wrote. So,
Oh, nothing I say is original. I stand on the shoulders of giants. Like
oh,
I know the universe is sending many, many, many little arrows out, and some people pick
that's
up
awesome.
the bullseye, and there's a few of us at the same time. One of the examples I love about this is that you know, nylon.
Mm.
Nylon was developed by two scientific teams at the exact same time, and they came up with the exact same research that came up with nylon. One was in New York, one was in London. Nylon.
Oh, that is so clever. I love
And so
that.
I know that when I get ideas or insights, I'm like, well, it's either from something up here that someone else has probably already said. So yeah, nothing I say is original. I'm sure it comes from
Well,
somewhere.
I would step back from that. You're once again being a little too modest here, Jane. You're very accomplished and successful and award-winning and you rock and we love you as our mentor. And I think what you've created is really, really cool. And so how can people access this course and this do you
So
have
many ways.
all
Well,
right,
there's
so
the
share.
Exit the Matrix podcast, Stories of Success. And at the moment, I'm doing a world first in interviewing thought leaders of what it is to live a life of abundance and how to choose that being aligned to your heart's desire. So I'm enjoying that. I don't have to sit in my room by myself and write a book. I'm interviewing these amazing people and getting insights that I'm sharing with people. So Exit the Matrix podcast is a great way to find me. Yoursuccessclub.com.au is probably the easiest way, but you could just find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. But yeah, I just love I love collapsing time and having an opportunity to help people bust through some of the beliefs or the conditions. And as an explosives engineer, you know, I used to blow up rock, and now I just help people blow up all of those conditions that they have to
You're
that
blowing my
separates them.
mind. This is great. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love your story. And I love what you've created. And I don't know about you listeners, but I'm going to go check it out. And so that's my success club.
Your success.
Oh, not mine. It's yoursuccessclub.com.au for Australia. Well, it has been an absolute joy. Do you have any final? Okay, this is Jane Slacksmith, pioneer of minds and blowing up and leadership. And so I'm just thrilled. We are thrilled to have you here. Um, everyone who's listening, please go to the show notes and for links and more information. I'm Alana. This is Creating Abundance, and this is all to inspire you to lead conscious lives, creating radiant health, wealth, and happiness. Until the next time, namaste.